Chapter 2. After a long day of work, occasionally interrupted by questioning phone calls, Lauren thought she needed a plate of waffles to cheer her up. After finding a comfy table, Lauren ordered a plate and waited. As she leaned back and closed her eyes, she listened to others' conversations. One in particular caught her attention.
Speaking of which, at school we were supposed to get new science kits 2 weeks ago, but they still haven't arrived, so they made us watch an hour-long lecture on how to set it up at home,
said a girl's voice.
Sounds like there's more to this mail trouble than meets the eye,
said a gruff-sounding voice. Lauren looked around and found the table where the two were talking. There was a girl and a man who looked like her grandfather sitting there. Lauren was torn. Should she risk bothering them? But she wanted to try to figure out why these mail issues were happening. Lauren got up from her table and went over to where the two sat. As Pamella and Jeffrey finished their waffles, a young lady sitting in a few booths in front of them suddenly stood up and started walking in their direction. She looked to be in her 30s and seemed nervous to approach. "I beg your pardon," she said, "but I couldn't help but overhear your conversation about your undelivered letter and the science kits at your school."
"Yeah?"
said Pamella.
"I've been expecting a letter from my traveling parents that was supposed to arrive days ago."
"I'm sorry to hear that. I'm actually the secretary at the post office, and we've had similar issues with other mail recently. We've never had such issues with the mail. Sometimes it's been found switched, sometimes it's been missing, and sometimes, well, it's just disappeared altogether."
Huh,
Jeffrey said.
Sounds like a real problem that should be fixed as soon as possible. Would you like to have a seat, Miss...
Lauren Miller, she said, taking a seat on the opposite side of the table. Just then, a tall young waiter walked over in a hurry and set a plate of waffles and a mug of hot chocolate in front of Pamella.
"Apologies for the delay,"
the waiter said.
"There was a minor malfunction with the hash brown presser, but it's been taken care of."
That's all right, kid. Anyways, please continue, Miss Miller.
"All right," Lauren said. "So I'm trying to figure out why this is happening, but I don't want to make a big deal about it. Wouldn't it be good if this got out to the public?"
"Forgive me for prying,"
the waiter said.
"But did you say something about mail?"
"Yes?"
"It just so happens that I've been expecting an acceptance letter and it hasn't arrived yet. Has this been an ongoing issue?"
"Yes, but that's not the problem. It's finding out who or what is behind this that's the problem."
"Well, for a wannabe lawyer, that's the type of case I'd like to see come to justice."
Lauren smiled, intrigued. Jeffrey broke in.
Well, I don't know much about any of you, but if we need a low-profile place to figure this out, I know just where we could do it.
"Yep. We could start our own investigation and figure out who the bad guy is,"
Pamella exclaimed. The waiter chuckled.
"I would consider it more favorable if we let authorities handle this, but..."
Listen, son. If you want to make waffles all day, that's okay by me. But this is your chance to get out there and get some real experience. I know the owner of the VFW piercing parlor. He has a private room that he rents out. I'm sure he would let us meet there. Now, how about tomorrow afternoon, say 2 o'clock? What do you think about that idea, Miss Miller? What's your name anyway, Waffle Kid?
Taken aback for a moment, the man held out his hand.
"It's Shawn Charlie Brown, sir. And at the age of 25, I would say I qualify as a more responsible individual."
"Brown!" yelled the chef. "Get back in the kitchen!"
"Sorry, on my way,"
said Shawn.
"My shift ends at 1 tomorrow, so I'll be ready to hear your plans. Lovely meeting you all, and see you tomorrow."
He rushed off to the kitchen, and Lauren agreed the meeting could be a step in the right direction. So the next day, they all met up at the VFW piercing parlor. It was a rugged building with a weathered metal sign on the front that said, "Veterans of Foreign Wars." Jeffrey and Pamella arrived first, straightening up the room as they waited for the others. Lauren peered inside. "Hello? Is Jeffrey Hudson here?"
"Yep, we're right here,"
Pamella said. She walked in, carrying a thick binder and setting it on the table. She glanced around the room, retrieving a whiteboard and beginning to write. "I'll write down what I know about what happened recently, if that's all right."
Go for it. Shawn should be here any minute now.
A minute later, a wrinkly man with a cane pushed the door open.
It's young defense,
He yelled and saluted. They all stared at him awkwardly. From the other room, a man's voice said,
Barnaby? Is that you?
Then Jeffrey came over.
I think you're in the wrong room, buddy.
He said, and led him to the room next door. Turns out, there was a veterans game club in which they played the board game Risk and munched on watermelon. A moment later, Shawn walked in with a look of excitement on his face.
Apologies. I had to clean up some spilled orange juice, but I'm here and ready to get started.
They all took a seat, and Lauren talked in detail about all of the calls she had been receiving from everyone having issues, such as the complaint from a mom about her son receiving a cleaning services flyer instead of his birthday card, and from a woman who had called saying she had received a monthly bill from someone who lived on the other side of town. Time slipped by, and it wasn't until 4 o'clock when Shawn looked at his watch and said,
Oh, this has been incredibly enlightening, but my duty's call. I have some papers to review.
Pamella and I should be on our way, too.
said Jeffrey.
Does it work for everyone to meet up next Monday for another meeting?
One last thought. I've entertained the idea that we should make a name for our cause to earn credibility.
They sat in silence for a moment, thinking about possible names. Suddenly, Pamella piped up.
How about the mail delivery mystery that we need to solve together as a team together? Team.
Jeffrey chuckled.
Don't you think that's a little long, soldier?
Well, if it's an acronym, it would just be the MDMTWNTSTAATT.
Lauren rested her head on her hand and silently pondered name options when her eyes lit up. You know what? How about we call ourselves the Postal Disorder Prevention Team? Then we can still have it as an acronym and call it the PDPT. They all liked this idea and agreed to make the PDPT the official name of the team. They then concluded their meeting and went their separate ways. Little did they know that the forming of this team would result in a perilous and dangerous mission that would nearly end in disaster.